Hello and welcome. I'm Lyndon Walker, and I hope you enjoy the video. Anyway, I hope you all have been doing well. I've been staying busy, per usual, or at least busy munching on peppermint bark, courtesy of Costco, not sponsored by Costco. And usually I'm a fall fellow, but I would commit atrocities for mints. But be it a peppermint stick, hot chocolate, peppermint frap, mint tea, or just like a nice wagon wheel from the sidewalk. Speaking of atrocities, there's a Thai tea place down the street from my house that has been closed every time I've gone by, and it's been devastating because it's not like I'm not paying attention to the hours that they're usually open. I go during the times they're usually open because I have it memorized, and they just haven't been open. So I really hope, or at least I was really hoping they hadn't closed. Luckily today I was able to sneak in because I saw they were actually open, and I actually didn't get myself a Thai tea. I decided to mix things up, and I got one of those, how do I describe it? Like, it's a beet juice drink, and I added honeydew to it, and I also got some, like, lychee jelly rectangles. I just really like lychee, so it was good. It's very sweet, so I might make myself a tea later to, balance it out, but it was really good, and I was just happy that they were open. And I also got, like, a little complimentary mini wall calendar, which is really cool, because I think it's really cute. It's like 3 by 3 inches at most, but yeah, the other day when I was trying to get Thai tea from there, it was not open, so out of spite of not wanting to go down, across the street to go to Dunk's to get just a drink, I really wanted Thai tea. I decided to walk across town to another place to acquire a Thai tea, and I saw that in a retail location that had just shut down, they'll be opening up a new Asian food market, which I'm also very excited about because I love snacks, and it'd be swell to have an Asian-style snack market this close to my house, because the next closest one I'd say would be like 30 minutes away, so by car, that is. 30 minutes by car, so it's a bit of a trek, so having one like a 10 to 15 minute walk from my house would be excellent. Also, as some of you may recall, I am very fond of bingo. Now, I don't go to bingo halls and play for money or things like that, but I go to a local cafe where it's free to play, and there's a little comedy show and whatnot that goes along with it. It's a really good time, and I actually happened to get a bingo the last time I was in. I got this little rainbow unicorn little trinket dish, which was really fun, and a friend of mine who had come with me won as well. They got a set of Kiss cups, as in the band Kiss, which was excellent. And the other day, actually not exactly the other day, like a good couple of weeks ago, when a friend of mine, Ray, who had joined me on, I believe it was my last video. If you haven't seen it, go take a peek. I quizzed him. He got me a bingo set because he knew I loved bingo, but it had a twist to it. Instead of numbers and letters that were called, it was artists. So you would call out Basquiat or Pollock or Frida Kahlo, and it was really neat. And the other night I finally busted it out with a group of friends of mine, and I was the bingo master calling out the artists, and instead of just calling out the artists' names, as I am an art school alum and have some art history knowledge, I decided to give information on the artists, their artwork, what they look like, well, predominantly their artwork, and see if my friends could guess. And it was really fun to kind of stretch the old art history muscles, and I actually felt very accomplished at how much I was actually able to remember. Some, I didn't remember or didn't know exactly, but others, right after I Googled them, I'd be like, oh yes, this person, because I'm really bad at names, but ain't that just the way. Anyway, it was a really good time, and the prize was glory, so it was low stakes, I could say, or incredibly high stakes, depending on how competitive you are. Another fact about me that you may know is that while painting, I like to listen to music or light a candle to help relax and get the creative juices flowing, and sometimes that backfires. And a good example of this would be when I set my desk on fire the other day. So, here's the scene. I'm just sitting down to get ready to work, but I want some ambiance. So, I went to light a candle. I grabbed some of the long matches initially to light it when I remembered it was actually a new candle, and I could easily just reach the wick with my regular old Bic lighter. So, ditched the matches, lit the candle, and placed my lighter back into its cup on my desk and stepped away. And before sitting down for an extended period of time to paint, I wanted to do some stretches. And once I was laying down on the ground, stretching my legs, I saw a bright orange light reflecting off the ceiling. And my first thought was, that's a really bright candle. And I stood up only to find that the candle was fine, and that it was my lighter as well as the pens next to it were in flames. And I managed to put it out with minimal damage. A few pens melted along with the cup they were in, but what had happened was that the lighter had gotten stuck in the on position, and so despite the flame being momentarily extinguished, or I guess not visible after I thought I put it out, it was still releasing fuel, and that in turn reignited. So I drowned it and tossed that lighter, and who would have thought that a lighter found on the ground would betray me like that? Anyway, also for those who are interested, the candle is pine-scented and it burns normally. Yeah. In other news, the driving factor behind the premise of this painting was the partially submerged train tracks, which I live near a train, or train tracks I should say, and when I'm going out on my walks or going to work after it's rained, I'll see them submerged in water and just disappearing off into the distance. And I always thought it was a very, whimsical, sort of, implies the air of adventure as well as uncertainty sort of scene, and I wanted to capture that in this piece. And I was also keen to work on the water reflections, which I think is really fun to do, is I think water can make things look really neat, and I wanted to practice doing a more painterly approach to the ripples. And to be honest, the ripples were really tedious, and I'll have to streamline that in the future because I found myself working on them for a good portion of this painting, but it was a good exercise. It was also fun to render all of the foliage around the tunnel, and of course, I have found myself recently drawing a lot of foliage and flowers in my work as of late, but that's a project for another time. Overall, I've always liked drawing, nature-y scenes and whatnot. I like really organic forms. I think it can flow in a really fascinating way. Something that I got into while painting, or more so got into listening to, was caving videos. Both regular caving and cave diving, which is caving but underwater, which, funny enough, terrifies me. Now, I am a fellow who enjoys a good scary story or a spooky house, but the idea of being stuck somewhere and not being able to get out just makes my skin crawl, and I hate it. However, the sights and experience that can come out of these ventures can be really, truly amazing. And, if given the chance to do it, I just very well may. I'd have to think really hard about diving, though, because even trying to, do regular snorkeling and breathing through, a regular snorkel, not even, air tanks, really skeeves me out for some reason. Especially, I don't know why, because I've been swimming since I've been very young, and I can swim very well. But, I don't know. big open water is scary, but also really not open water in a cave is also really scary. So, I don't know, psychoanalyze that, I guess. In other news, I've been working on some more of my writing whips and wanted to share an excerpt of one. Inspiration for a working title hasn't really struck me yet, so for now let's call it Secret Agent Cook. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. It was a brisk night illuminated by the millions of lights, billboards, and neon signs that refracted off the wispy fog of Monstrata. The city's shopping center was always moving, its buildings of glass glaring down on the fray, all while I was in the kitchen. It was a peaceful night, and a steady flow of orders were coming through the window. I chopped some hash browns from the pile I had prepared earlier and plopped them on a plate with 2 eggs and toast. I flipped the burgers and a slice of ham before depositing them in the window. Grabbed another plate with 4 pieces of bacon and placed it alongside. Then back to the griddle. Some hamburger buns were ready to flip, got some peppers and mushrooms on the grill, and cracked 2 more eggs into the frying pan. The dish in the window was gone, and one of the waitresses slid into the kitchen. It was Kat with the red hair. "I got the side of gravy for you," she said. "Thank you." Kat didn't reply, just grabbed some place settings and vanished back into the dining area. She didn't need to, the code was received. I flipped the eggs as well as a couple switches on the radio over my head. While my phone pumped out rhythmic electric guitars and scratchy vocals, an older boombox style system rested eye level over the stove next to the chef presses. It was always on and made a light static ambiance which I tried my best to drown out. It snapped and crackled and eventually warbled into a robotic voice. Cathedral, shh. Full moon, shh. Doppelganger, shh. The trade was confirmed and the radio returned to its usual humming. But I didn't like the sound of it. I scraped the peppers and mushrooms into a bowl of eggs to mix them into a hearty omelet. I knew where the cathedral was. It had been there a couple times before. It was an old industrial steel plant turned tetanus den just outside the slums. Full moon was the time. It stood for midnight. New moon for noon, and so forth. That meant I only had a couple hours. The transmissions we got were only good for 24 hours. If one or both parties missed the rendezvous point, then the deal was off. This helped not only to push the sales of information, but highlight that the majority of the information we had to sell was sensitive. What worried me was Doppelganger. It meant the seller, and only the seller, could finalize a transaction. No one else was allowed to accompany them to the cathedral, and I was the one handling this transfer. However, that meant the buyer had to arrive alone just the same. I poured the omelet slurry onto the stovetop and placed a cover over it when suddenly the radio started sputtering. Shh. 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Shh. The voice wasn't robotic, but it wasn't fully organic either. I didn't know this code. "Hey Mel, did you get the side of ketchup?" Kat's voice sounded bored, her version of nonchalant. "Yeah, I got it. Do you need anything?" "No thanks. I got it from here." Kat paused and bit her lip. Her luminous red hair slipped from behind her ear and over her face, but couldn't hide her discomfort. "Are you sure you're okay by yourself? I won't get in your way." "No deal." She screwed up her face. The money was good, and the boss didn't like taking losses. Even in theory. I folded the omelet and slapped it on a plate with some toast and sausage before handing the meal to Kat. She gave me a sneer before re-entering the dining room, not keen on being left out on a job. Despite that, my eyes wandered back to the old radio. Tentatively, I tapped the radio, and, to no one's surprise, nothing happened. I shook my head and began to wipe down my station. I believe we have started to get to the end of the video now. Thank you so much for listening and chatting with me. Let me know in the comments what you think of water. Big water, diving in water. Is it scary? Am I just a little silly goofy? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.